YouTube. Oh, second case of COVID. I hate it. It's just come back with a vengeance, which is quite interesting. But I was inspired to come on because earlier today, when I was just scrolling, well, I was scrolling, I was multitasking on one of these ADHD, neuro spicy, or whatever the heck they're calling us these days. But I never knew that I was that. That's just what I was, right? So I multitask a lot, and that's why I was such a good program manager because I could manage multiple streams of work and keep everything organized and understood what needed to be looked at when and why. It's a super skill. So I was doing that today, and I stumbled across a very interesting article about life coaches or the coaching industry and how all it's done and all it's been recognized to do is manifest extreme debt. And I thought that's a very interesting article because there has been periods in my um, life or business life, more specifically, because I didn't really use coaching in my life. I started to hire coaches specifically to help me build my business. And I can truly understand, having both been on the side of investing in my own education with coaches, as well as working for a seven-figure coach as one of her coaches inside her high ticket program, and then supporting another couple of mid six um, people in their programs. Now, both of those were actually clients, so it was an interest, it's a different type of thing, but all really charged high ticket. And I've become quite known in the industry not to charge high ticket. And I'm sure it's because of my experiences within those high ticket programs. So when I read that article, I could immediately understand, empathize, sympathize, because at times I have felt like I had invested heavily. One program was 20 grand, and and it wasn't one-to-one coaching. This was in a group where they were only coaching twice a month. Um, and it was a case of big, 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 big promise. So these are, those times I don't see so many big, bold promises as I once did. So huge promise, six figures, 12 months guaranteed. And if you didn't make it, she'd keep working with you until you did. Well, it only took 3 or 4 months for me to actually say, this isn't working, this will never work. You sold me something that you aren't, and I wanted out. Negotiated the out, negotiated that I'd get a 50% refund. Never did. This is a coach that still, I see her selling her services on Instagram quite regularly. I've blocked her everywhere else, but for some reason I see her on Instagram. So, all of this rambling just to say I get it. I get it when we feel like we've invested in coaches a lot of money and they didn't create anything but debt for us. But here's what I actually also know and understand. In my case, for my investment, that 20 grand, the initial one, she was not qualified. Now, I also didn't do enough due diligence. I also didn't understand enough to research to figure out was she qualified. I took it on her marketing and how she presented herself and what she said her income was. Having worked behind the scenes of a seven-figure coach who charged 25K for a mastermind or 12,000 for a group membership program, which was locked in, 12 months locked in, zero cancellation. If you wanted to cancel, you could not cancel. The best that she would do is let you buy yourself out of the contract. Now, I get she's running a business and she had employees like me to pay. We were just contractors, though, so not employees. And she paid us very poorly, just so that we are clear. And I would again say that on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really good expertise in being able to deliver the services that they promise, and 0 being no chance, she would only scale on a 5. Her expertise was again, she was another, and I don't mean this to sound bad, but she was another one, beautiful blonde, all primed up and knew what to say, how to say it. And I find a lot of them in this industry, no disregard or offense meant, but that was just my voice on that. And so she was an excellent salesperson. She's one of those people that could sell snow to Eskimos. And that is why her business did so well up the upfront. Her delivery, her ability to build out programs, her understanding of human psychology, her ability to coach, guide, mentor. I'm not rating that highly. I'm sorry, I'm not. And that is why the industry gets such a bad rap. But in all of this, here's what I now understand and know to be true. We, as investors, are responsible to ensure that we get what we pay for. We are responsible to turn up and use the tools, use the teaching, use the coaching, use the services in a way that gets us our results or gives us enough information that we can go and get feedback on. And I think that is where sometimes, yes, it's easy for an article to be written that coaching and coaches, it's the latest scam and spam. I get it. But I don't believe that to be true of everybody. It's like everything. You're always going to have people that rig the system. I was listening to a podcast today about a financial house in India, Jane Financing, and they were multi-billion, but they rigged the system. So they're now in quite dire straits. So it happens everywhere. So all this to say is this. I am a business coach and mentor. That is who I help. How do I help them specifically? Well, I have had over 2 decades of business experience in large corporates, small startups, my own business, these coaching business, and across a lot of industries in a lot of different countries across cultures. I think the skill set that I have, that of a project manager, that of a program manager, that of somebody who has been operationally in charge of both CapEx and OpEx, which these ladies would not know anything about, of understanding profit margins, of understanding hiring, firing, building teams, putting controls in place. I know I'm well qualified. I also know that I have a brain that is very negatively wired, that I lived a lot of my life very unhappily, and that with the power of good life coaching tools, I was able to reverse that, change that, take control, take ownership, and create something different. I am still in that process. I still do not have all of the goals achieved that I have set for myself. I have a big, hairy, audacious goal. I have one in my business and I have one for my personal life, which is the horses, of course. And then one also for just how I want to feel on a daily basis. And I work hard to do that work. There are periods in my life where I did not work hard, where I took time out, where I've coasted. And that never impacted my clients. Now, I do not charge these high ticket prices, but I deliver a high ticket service. But I'm not a big name. And I also do not have a 7-figure business. And I also do not invest heavily in building up my name. So that is why when I read those articles, and it's very easy for us to get swept up and think, yeah, it's all a big scam. I can Google everything. I can get the help. It's important to take a deep breath because there's two sides of every story. And in fact, there's 50 sides of every story. And what I think I'm trying to say here is that coaching is irreplaceable, in my opinion, if you are not in an environment where you have support, where you have mentorship and guidance. If you are trying to create your life or business in the same place that you're currently existing, with the same people that have been in your life for a long time, that is a hard road to take. Why is it hard? People don't like change. I talk about something that I call Larry the lizard, which is just your unconscious brain. And Larry, of course, wants to keep us safe, wants to keep us looking for pleasure and avoiding pain. And he also wants to conserve energy. So if you're trying to change, and a really good example of this is and you've heard this all the time, right? Lotto winners who win a whole bunch of money very regularly end up in the same place they were, if not worse, in a short period of time. People who lose a lot of weight, lose a lot of friends, lose a lot of family, had a lot of difficulty because nobody around them wants them to change like that, right? So we are creatures of habits. We are creatures of patterns, routines, and habits. I think I said that. So, all this to say, if your situation is such that you need support, you need an external voice, you need somebody to remind you what is possible, what is available to you, and that it is a part of that journey is doing and becoming aware of hard things because we can't have what we've never had before without doing something hard. And hard usually translate to painful for us, painful because of the emotion it evokes. It's quite painful to feel confused. It's quite painful to feel defeated, deflated, that we can't do it because we're not getting the results we want. That's painful. So if somebody's not explaining to you, but that's part of the process and helping you and guiding you and showing you what is possible when you keep going, how do you change? So I don't always buy that the coaching industry is a scam and that all business coaches help you do is manifest debt by asking you to pay big tickets. I personally have invested, I worked out something like 78,000 in different courses, programs, coaching over my period. Do I believe in the value that I got from that? Some of them, no. Like I said, some of them, no, no. They were not qualified. But here's the problem. I did not research that enough. I bought very quickly. So I think it's a good thing that now it's much harder to make sales, right? Some of you might have been listening to me and been in my world for a long time, and you probably heard me pitch my BFF club a lot. And very few people will come and compared to who you pitch to, right? At the moment, it's 10% of that. So it's quite low. So that is normal. We're taking a lot longer to decide. We're taking a lot longer to go, okay, I think this one is the right place for me. And I would always encourage you to do that. And something else I would always encourage you to do is if you're looking for a business coach, don't look for somebody who's only built one business or been involved in a business, which is another red flag all of these people had. They'd all sort of worked in a corporate environment as administrators or in finance, but not in a leading, not in a executive function where we had responsibility to make decisions that impacted how that business would perform and what the budgets would be. These people weren't at that level. So just because they've gone off and built a business doesn't mean they can teach you to do it because their skill set is really quite small is what I've come to realize. And I was listening to somebody, another one, who's made 40 million in her business. Good on her. But she's talking about the difference between investment debt, corporate consumer debt, and then coaching debt. It's just her trying to tell you buy her stuff because her stuff's an investment. And I'm like, but that's not how you work out debt. And these are red flags to me. And then finally, what I want to say is know yourself. Some people do not need accountability. They don't need somebody to help them pull them along. They can just, if you say to them, go and do A, B, and C, they'll go and do it. You don't need to spend that much on coaching, okay? Because you can get all that. That Google's going to tell you. Chat will tell you what to do, right? If you are able to execute on your own, don't spend the money unless you're up leveling and you need to use it to build a specific skill. But if you're somebody more like me, whereby you're often out of integrity with your word and you feel a bit flaky, and really all that is that we have had difficult childhoods normally. Our wiring is a bit wonko. Larry's voice is very strong with all of the you're not good enough, who do you think you are to do this? Because the self-confidence and the self-esteem and the self-respect has taken a hammering, not because you're not capable. You are. I am. We all are. It's just that when it comes to being personal, because your personal brand business is personal, sometimes we need help to see it so we can rewire it so that we change who we are. So, how that manifested for me is I would buy and invest with these coaches, and then I wouldn't get coaching. I wouldn't get help. I wouldn't ask questions because guess what? Every time I did, they made me feel like shit. They told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do and use their rule book about what was possible for me. It wasn't about a skill I was building, it was about my niche, my product, my services. So I just want to say that very clearly. The coaching you need depends on the type of person you are and what skill you're missing. Take responsibility. Don't believe all the marketing bullshit out there in terms of coaching doesn't work. Coaching does work. It transformed my life. It is one of the best things I ever did is get work with somebody who could explain my way of being to myself so I could up level my own commitment and promises to myself so that I started to do what I said I was going to do. It was key. It's still key. That is what I do inside of my club. I work with that type of person and I do not charge a lot. I charge enough to feed my horses. I am not doing this to get rich. It is just my way of, I find it's my life's work now because I don't want anybody to say I got them in debt to help them, but I need to get paid. I've got lights to, lights, internet forces to feed and all of that stuff. And so what I charge, I think for the value you get is absolutely worthwhile. But I'm only good for you if you're my category. It's not that you're not capable. It's just that there's all of this programming that we need to focus on and help rewire so that when we start executing strategy, and that is a key thing. I don't, we come up with a plan for you to execute. So we track that so that we're not just having chit chats and seeing how we're all feeling. We're actually in the business of building a business, but through that, seeing who we are in the process so that we can become the version of us that creates the business we desire. And that is, to me, well worth any investment, right? How much is that worth? That could be worth potentially everything. If you can create a business that gives you multi sixes and you're only investing, my program's 247 a month, no lock-ins, no contracts. You just join, and if it's good for you, you keep. If it's not, I let you go. I mean, hello, I'm not going to keep you there. So that's sort of, you could make a lot of money, right? It's a good investment. You're surrounded by people who are working on similar things. It lifts us up. And like I say, if you are in a situation or an environment where you're on your own or you're surrounded by people who don't understand what you want to achieve, this is what you need. But if you know what to do, why invest in a coach? Go invest in somebody who has the skill set you need. If you're currently building out a team, go work with somebody who's built out, hired and fired individuals, written up job descriptions, understands how to put key performance indicators in place, understands how that you can track and measure their performances so that you can give them feedback to get them to where they want to be. Done all of that too. That was part of my job as a program manager. So these are the things that you want to think about. Now, my rant and ramble on this was because that article triggered me because I see both sides. And I also then get a bit of why am I doing this? Because I agree, coaching's a big ass scam. But no, coaching, when it's used incorrectly, like anything on the planet is. So it all comes back down to you. What are you prepared to invest in? Why? What state are you currently at? Make sure you go find the right person that's qualified to help you. Do not fall for any marketing of that person. Get on the phone with them. If they're not talking to you without pitching, I often have conversations with people that I never pitch to. I just have a chit chat, see where you're at, what you need help with if you come into my world. You know, coaching's got to be your idea. Maybe I'm unique like that. I don't know. But anyway, all that to say is, yeah, be mindful, invest, but then make sure you're showing up to get your return on your investment. If you have a history like me of buying things and then not getting the help that comes with the thing you bought, that's got to change. So make sure your coach, somebody like me, is actually going to come and find you to say, you need help. Why are you disappearing on me? Anyway, I felt compelled to come on and say that because I was obviously triggered about that today. So have a great day. Keep building your business. Keep dreaming the dreams. Keep knowing that if you're in a place that you are not enjoying, if you are spending 80% of your day in less than happiness, and happiness is relative, right? You know what I mean, in that contented place, then get out. You don't have to live like that. That is to be the gift. I mean, it is priceless, the transformation that I have been on and changed from. Priceless. And that's what I wish for you. Alrighty, ramble over. I will catch you in the next one. Now, if you've managed to stay this long, I'm assuming we vibe. So if you wouldn't mind, please tell somebody else about me because I'm here to help and I'd like to grow my Ramble channel. So let them know. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe because I do these things now reasonably regularly. Give me a thumbs up to know that you listened in because if you're hearing this, you've stayed the whole way through, so I would love that. Feel free to come into my inbox, liz@lbfundamentals.com. Always happy to chit chat, always happy to see and get to talk to you all. And yeah, doesn't mean you have to pay money to me. I don't care. Just have a life you love. That's the goal, right? Bye.